This is the After Party, live with Kim McAllister. Pick a couch, grab a drink, and settle into the conversation.
Music a little bit too early. My apologies for the delay. The school called right at the end of the Mark Thompson show. Everybody's okay, but Jacob was in the office, so, got to take that phone call, but good thing everything worked out okay. Hi, how are you? Thank you for being here. What a speech that was. Good thing it's Waterfall Wednesday, and we have so much to look forward to distract ourselves. Sorry if that music is a little too loud. Here we are on the After Party Live, and I have been remiss in not thanking the folks that have contributed via PayPal. Yesterday, I had forgotten to do it. I was so overwhelmed by Chris's monstrous donation that I didn't go to PayPal, and I do want to take a moment because the contribution that came in yesterday from Wes, super important to me. So thank you, Wes, for contributing to the After Party Live. I have a recurring PayPal payment set up by Joyce. Another one from Wes, Vicky S, Alicia P. Huge thank you to those who contribute via the After Party Live PayPal page. The information is, of course, every day in the show description and in the About tab. So easy to find if that's the way you want to contribute. Other people love to send ideas and stories equally as appreciated. So thank you so much for all of that and for the kind messages. Got another really lovely message yesterday from Julie. So thank you for that. You can always email me, kim@theafterparty.live, kim@theafterparty.live. And I always love that. Just want to do a little plug for the Nikki Medoro show. That is happening tomorrow night at 5 p.m. Pacific. So mark your calendars, set your little phone alert, whatever reminds you to do the important things in the world, because it's a really fun show. Again, that's Thursdays at 5 p.m. Pacific, the Nikki Medoro show. All right. Hello to you. I am Plant Scout Sparks, says Gordon. Yes, makes sense. Let's take a look at this. Maybe you knew this already. This might be another one of those cases where I am just catching on and you're already ahead of me. I thought this picture was super cool. That's why I chose this story to be the lead for it today. Did you know that the tips of leaves, some leaves, glow blue during thunderstorms? I didn't know. Meteorologists apparently catching this phenomenon during a storm. The electrical energy generated by thunderstorms, we know this can make our hair stand up, right? Can create invisible sparkles on trees. And there's now photographic proof of this electrical event. For the first time, they caught it. Happened during a thunderstorm in North Carolina in June of 2024, where scientists looked at weak electrical charges called corona on the tips of leaves, and they saw it with their eyes. So they thought, let's investigate further. They thought that it might be possible that thunderstorms could cause entire tree canopies to glow this ethereal blue color that is too faint for the human eye to see. The corona can also burn the very tips of leaves. They say, given how often leaf tips may burn, could be the storms that are harming the tree canopy and may even have shaped tree evolution to limit damage. So they did a big study on it, and it is now published in the journal Geophysical Research Letters. The scientists at the Pennsylvania State University said these things actually happen. We've seen them. We now know they exist. To finally have concrete evidence of that is what is the most fun. So for about 100 years, scientists have theorized, they've speculated that weak electrical discharges from thunderstorms find their way onto plants, but they've never been able to observe or measure this in a real storm. They were just guessing based on anomalies observed in the electric field in forests. Over the last 50 years, there have been some experiments done about how this could happen in the wild. The theory was that the charge of a thunderstorm induces an opposite charge in the ground below, and the ground charge is attracted to the charge above it and travels toward the highest point that it can reach. In a forest, that's the tip of leaves on the top of trees, right? And once there, the electricity discharges through the treetops, forming the corona. They say in the lab, if you turn off all the lights and you close the door and you block the windows, you can just barely see the corona. Looks like a blue glow, like you're seeing there from the tips of the leaves. Similar experiments used potted trees to allow a striking relationship between plants and electrical discharges. It raised the possibility that UV emissions may be a way to gauge the current and any resulting damage as well. So they went out into a real thunderstorm. They had this souped up Toyota Sienna minivan with a weather station, an electric field detector, laser rangefinder, roof mounted periscope. Looked like something out of that movie Twister, where there's a storm chaser van. They say low and invisible ambient light under stormy skies often drowns out the light that the corona emit in the visible spectrum that the human eye can see. That's why they needed the camera and the periscope system to make the light more visible. They ripped out one of the seats, put in these vibration dampening pads so the instruments wouldn't bounce up and down as they drove. They took video, analyzed it, saw 41 corona on leaf tips in the span of 90 minutes. So it's real. The tip-off they say that this occurred was clusters of UV signals that tracked with branches as they swayed in the wind, the glows lasting up to 3 seconds, often moving from leaf to leaf. The corona behaving similarly on nearby pines and on trees during 4 other storms that this team chased between Florida and Pennsylvania. And it happened despite the strength of the storm. What do they think? The scientists believe this could mean corona arise in abundance, radiating from tens to hundreds of leaves on every treetop during a single thunderstorm. They said if you had superhuman vision, you could see the glowing on the top of every tree under the thunderstorm, and it would probably be a really cool light show, like thousands of UV flashing fireflies descending on the treetops. And that's why sometimes you'll see the leaf tips visibly burnt. The waxy covering that protects leaves from UV damage and dehydration, called the cuticle, damaged. So that's pretty cool. I didn't know. Did you know? I didn't even know it was a theory. That's really cool. Changes the way I look outside during thunderstorms. I wish I could see it all. All right, I have a story. I'm going to the chat before that because I thought this is really cool. Hello, Nancy. Yeah, I think he's okay. I think he's okay. He's all right. Yeah, he had a little stress. I have a story for you about horses. Specifically, the oldest horse is what I have to show you. Oh, for some reason, my chat isn't working properly. So this is a horse in Virginia, 37 years old, the world's oldest horse, 37. This horse's name is Fancy. Fancy belongs to Paige Bloomer, and she was born April 1st of 1988, the same day as Paige Bloomer. They share a birthday. And she got Fancy when she was 8 years old. You can see the picture on the left there. She's 8. And now Fancy is 37. 37 years old and 329 days. Very close to 38. Certified by the Guinness World Records as the oldest horse in the world. She said that she decided to submit the information on Fancy to the Guinness World Records She said, I never would have believed if you told me at the age of 33 and 37 that Fancy and I would still be standing together and still sharing our lifelong memories. She said, we've confronted many health battles as she's gotten older, but she never gives up, and she's a strong-willed horse, and in return, I never give up on her. She also says Fancy's best friend is a donkey named Rose, who serves as a guide animal because Fancy, at the age of 37, is nearly blind. They are like two peas in a pod. So wonderful old souls, she says, who every day enjoy being together, soaking in the sun and sharing each other's company. And she's very grateful for every day she gets to stand with them. The oldest horse ever was named Old Billy, died at the age of 62 in the year 1822, according to Guinness World Records. Before Fancy, the title of the oldest horse was a horse from Boscalad, who died at the age of 38 last year. So now it's Fancy, 37 years and 329 days for Fancy. Yeah. Gordon says redwood trees give off negative ions, which are beneficial to us. That's awesome. I love it. Zero Sum having a cup of coffee. Coachella Valley coffee, hopefully. This story I put in here for Wes. I thought this was interesting. The story comes from The Guardian, and the title is The Accidental Hacker, How One Man Gained Control of 7,000 Robots. His name is Sammy Asdufel, and he somehow got access to data from robot vacuum cleaners around the world. Crazy. He hooked up his DJI Romo vacuum cleaner to his PlayStation 5 controller because he said it sounded like fun. He used an AI coding assistant, Claude Code, to reverse engineer how the home robot vacuum communicated with DJI's remote cloud servers. He said he found he could not only control his own robot, but that he gained access to data from other robot vacuum cleaners as well. Live camera feeds, microphone audio, maps from nearly 7,000 devices in 24 countries. What? He said he discovered a back-end security bug that could mean whole swarms of web-connected vacuum cleaners or surveillance devices spying on their owners without them even knowing. He took the findings to the publication The Verge, which is kind of a tech publication, and one of the reporters gave him the serial number of a DJI Romo vacuum that he'd been testing for review. And within minutes, Asdufel could see it cleaning the reporter's living room, that it had only 80% battery life remaining, and that then he had it generate and transmit a floor plan of the reporter's house. The company is a Chinese company, DJI, Shenzhen Dazhang Innovations, Sciences and Technologies. They told The Verge, we solved that problem. But according to Asdufel, the company has not fixed all the vulnerabilities that he found. Because since they said it was fixed, and since The Verge published the report, he's been in touch with Popular Science, or the company has, to say the issue had been resolved, but he says no, it's not resolved. No. So I just, you never know who's watching, who's listening, who can control your robot remotely, what they can see, all these things. You got to be careful of that robot, Wes. I don't know. Kind of freaks me out a little bit. Speaking of tech, another story about looking at screens. You ever look at a screen so much, especially our phones, that your eyes kind of get a little blurry maybe, or a little teary? You know why it hurts your eyes? Apparently, the American Academy of Ophthalmology says we blink less while we're looking at a screen, that normally we blink about 15 times a minute. but the blink rate can be cut in half when we're staring at a screen. They say this idea is backed by some research done in 2022 at the Aravind Eye Hospital and Postgraduate Institute of Ophthalmology in India, and other collaborators as well. 30 studies from all over the world were reviewed by that paper. They say blinking is one factor, but they also say the contrast level of letters compared to the background of digital screens, screen glare, reflections, wrong distance, angle of the viewing digital screen, poor lighting conditions, improper posture during the usage as well, all play a role in this. And it all means that our eyes are left feeling dry and more uncomfortable after a lot of screen time. Dry eyes, itching, foreign body sensation, watering, blurring of vision, and headache. Sometimes my eyes get a little blurry. They say they need to do more research to determine if screen time results in any permanent damage, but they do say the discomfort is really real. And one of the things we can do, and I would argue, even if you're listening, is to look away from the screen every 20 minutes, can reduce eye strain. Every 20 minutes, look away about 20 feet in front of you for 20 seconds. The idea is to reset your focus and blink rate to reduce the symptoms of eye strain. So every 20 minutes, look away 20 feet in front of you for 20 seconds. A lot of 20s there. Supposedly that's going to help. I'll try it out. We'll see if it works. They say it really does help reduce eye strain, but there's some other things you can try. Of course, limiting your screen time to 4 hours a day or less, having some ambient lighting in the room beyond just your screen, wearing glasses instead of contacts if you're doing an extended screen session, and getting software that will remind you to look away, because sometimes it's hard to remember to actually do it. So there's a source application called Stretchly, which works on all platforms, Windows, Mac, Linux. It periodically takes over your screen and reminds you to look away from the screen. You can set time between breaks, the length of breaks. So if you find your eyes hurting after a particularly long session at work, they say that could help you. So if you're like me and maybe you get a little blurry vision or teary or whatever, who knows? Maybe that'll help. I don't know. This is just a little quick one. I saw this and thought this was interesting. What is that, you might ask? It's a tequila bottle specially designed with a little mushroom cap. It's kind of cool. It's a beaded mushroom cap on a golden bottle. Thought it was cool looking. If I was walking down the aisle and happened to see that, it would make me stop and go, what the heck is that? This designer, or these designers, they're called the Haas brothers. They created this limited edition Tropa Añejo bottle, which is a ceramic bottle resembling a fly agaric mushroom with a beaded cap, for the drink brand Tropa Tequila. So that's the brand name. It has a limited run of 300 bottles, a gold ceramic base, and a mushroom cap decorated with beads and saturated colors. Tropa Tequila. So if you see that, that's what it is. Speaking of fabric innovations, I saw this. Here's a cover for a tennis racket. You can also use it for purses, wallets, and other things. Who knows? Beanbag chairs. There's this company called Arda, ARDA, and they are transforming the waste from beer into this faux leather-like material. They say they were inspired by local microbreweries. Arda made a plastic-free leather alternative by changing the protein structures in a brewer's spent grain. It's a grain material made by taking the spent grain or draff from beer or whiskey production and then reconstructing its plant proteins to make them more like animal proteins. And what they got, the result, is a soft, supple material which is durable like animal leather or synthetic polyurethane, and it does not require the plastic binders or coatings common to plant-based alternatives made from mycelium, the bacterial cellulose of plant waste fibers. So it could be a good alternative, completely plastic free. They said they don't really see the ones with the plastic connectors as a long-term alternative. So they're looking at maybe doing a little more with this. They say they have this spent grain. It's the soggy, low value byproduct left from the mashing of malt during beer production. And typically they end up using it as animal feed. But it's a material rich in protein. And so they developed this method to modify it, transforming it into a higher value product. They call it green chemistry. They turned it into, you can see there, this kind of goo. They said it's a isolation and reconfiguration of the plant protein molecules within the grain into stronger chains. That the plant proteins come in this really coiled up, messy state. So they unravel the fibers into longer chains and then link them together, and you get the building blocks for something that looks a lot like collagen. But it starts out as brown goop. In the process, the liquid protein is extracted from the grain and purified in a similar way to how plant proteins are treated to create meat alternatives. Then they're mixed with different bio-based ingredients that help recreate the buttery feel of leather or encourage new connections to form between the protein chains. They add natural pigments for color before the goop is placed in trays with textured paper on the bottom to give it the look of leather or pebble grain. They say scaling this up would take place using roll-to-roll manufacturing, where the material would be fed from one roller onto another while being dried and printed. But it could be something that works better as an alternative without any plastic involved. So there you go. And I think the purse kind of looks nice. Again, there's a cover for the tennis racket. All kinds of uses for that. I like it. Here's something else that's innovative and amazing. How about this? Snow generating stickers are helping fight climate change effects in ski resorts. Slap a couple stickers on your snowboard and you could help create snow. That's pretty cool. It's a design graduate, Tane Wadodakar, who's created these small-scale geoengineering snow-generating stickers. Said he started the Snow Seeds project, when he was in school, exploring how surface finish technologies could be used for cloud seeding. This is weather modification where substances are dispersed into the air to encourage localized rain or snowfall. The point of the stickers is that they contain mineral salt made from silver and iodine that is suspended in a water-soluble ink, and that forms the top layer of the sticker. Then the ink dissolves when it's exposed to snow on the ground, and the mineral salt stays intact, sitting on the snow. And as it evaporates, it enters the air and goes up into the clouds where it attracts water to form snowflakes. Wadodkar was inspired to create the snow seed stickers because he loves to snowboard and hang out in the Himalayan mountains. That's where he first discovered snowboarding. And he realized that the slopes of this village were looking a little bare when usually they should be buried in snow. So he thought, I could do something about this. There's a peer-reviewed study that shows about 13% of current ski areas are projected to lose natural annual snow cover entirely. Another 20% will see their snow fall cut in half by the end of the century. So spending time in the mountains, he said, gave him different perspective on life and showed him the big effects of climate change in a part of the world that seems to be unchanging and eternal. So he embarks on this project. Here's another picture of the stickers. There he is in the snow with the stickers on the snowboard. Again, there's some more up close. He's taken the idea of geoengineering, which involves large-scale interventions to counteract the effects of climate change, and done it on a smaller scale, where you get some community action. Because typically those cloud seeding operations are done via aircraft or drones. But the stickers, he says, are a low-carbon alternative that would allow snow sports enthusiasts and locals to work together to respond to their observations about what the environment needs in real time. It could be a way to change the environment greatly differently from any form that it had previously taken. That's a quote. So what he's hoping is to develop this invention so that it can be used on top of snowboards and skis, similar to how wax is used on the bottom. He's in the process of lab testing the sticker prototype to measure its efficiency of the suspension and the evaporation before he takes it to the real world. Well, what an interesting idea. These stickers that could create snow. I'm fascinated. All right. Shall we go to the lotto of the day? Let's do something a little fun. A grandma's system has netted her kind of a big prize. She's got a whole lotto system that she does. She has a special algorithm that apparently this grandma has created, and her son-in-law and his wife, or her daughter and her husband, play the lottery games, and they use this special algorithm invented by the grandmother when they buy their tickets. And he said he's been praying for the lottery luck to support Youth Mind Builders, which is a nonprofit that this couple founded to teach financial literacy to kids. So he uses his grandmother-in-law's system, this guy, when he buys his ticket at the Briggs Stop Mart in Columbus, Ohio, and he wins. Matches 5 numbers on a pick 5 drawing, and it gets an additional couple $100 from a different bet, and he walks away with more than $25,000. He said the prize money will allow him to buy computers and games for his Youth Mind Builders nonprofit organization. All because grandma created this interesting algorithm. I have a story that I think is fascinating. I know this looks like it's a beautiful old opera house. This is in Ukraine, the Ukraine Opera House. Beautiful. But there was a study done about how color can play a role in the way in which we enjoy concerts. The color choices made at a venue actually can affect how we experience the music. It's a study published today in the Journal of the Acoustical Society of America. I can say it. And they say that the color of the venue impacts your enjoyment of a show. The research done out of Germany's Technical University of Berlin Room acoustics perception is called multidimensional by a study co-author. The key here, they say, is the perception of a theater, not necessarily its measurable sonic qualities. Because in addition to reverberation and timbre, a venue's appearance influences our perception of incoming audio. So a hall can appear warm, or it can appear bright or metallic in sound. And they asked a group of volunteers to experience concerts in various theaters. They say, given the logistical challenges of getting the participants around to all these multiple locations, they broadcast the performances to the volunteers on virtual reality headsets, and each person watched 4 shows, 2 violin and 2 clarinet recitals in 12 different venues, featuring various combinations of color, brightness, hue, and saturation. They tried to increase the realism of all this by adjusting the sound depending on where a person moved their head to make it realistic, right? And after each concert, the volunteers rated them based on enjoyment, timbre, reverberance, and strength. And they say the results were pretty clear. There was a distinct correlation between a music hall's visuals and the perceived timbre of songs. More saturated, cooler hues like blue and green seemed colder sounding than other options. The darker theaters often increased how much a participant liked the music they heard. No change perceived in volume depending on coloration. They did say, the study's authors, that while theater designers should be focused on maximizing acoustical capabilities of any given space, the visual cues should be considered as well. All that money is spent, they say, for making a concert hall sound good, but they think it should not be overlooked that the visual appearance makes its contribution to the sound of the hall as well. So, I guess the colder sounds are not the good sounds. Interesting. I I like an old theater that's interesting looking, but I don't know if it increases the enjoyment of the sound. They say it does. I don't know. It is time for Waterfall Wednesday. Yay! Is everybody ready for it? I have a story before we jump into some waterfalls maybe we haven't seen before. This is Niagara Falls, the oldest state park in America. Niagara Falls State Park in Western New York is going to be absorbing 2 neighboring parks. And the result is they'll be able to add 150 acres to Niagara Falls State Park. And it means new hiking trails to the bounds of the park as well. The neighboring parks are Whirlpool State Park and Devil's Hole State Park. And those 2 parks are now being absorbed by Niagara Falls National Park or State Park rather, and they will become zones within Niagara Falls State Park. They're hoping to finish the expansion by the summer season, which is apparently their busy season. They're changing the signage. They've got 2 miles of new trails through the Niagara Gorge corridor. They say when this project is complete, Niagara Falls State Park will feature nearly 5 miles of continuous shoreline along the Niagara River, from the Niagara Scenic Parkway to the Niagara Power Vista Visitor Center. So, some changes there. They say Niagara Falls State Park sees about 9 million visitors every year. Nearby Whirlpool State Park has 450,000 visitors a year. Devil's Hole, 350,000 visitors a year. So they say it's about drawing more of those 9 million guests a year further into the park, capitalizing on the Niagara Falls State Park name recognition, brand awareness, because they say the other parks don't have that name recognition and people just don't go there because they're not familiar with it. So that is happening. But today I thought, why don't we go somewhere probably most of us have never been before. And that is to Cuba. Have you been to Cuba? Maybe some of you have been to Cuba. I have not been to Cuba. I do know some people that have been. I'll tell you, there's some beautiful waterfalls in Cuba. I had no idea. Let me take my Niagara Falls picture away, and voila. Voila. Look how beautiful that is. Just gorgeous. One of the many waterfalls in Cuba. This comes from lovecuba.com. The first waterfall to check out is called El Nicho Waterfall. And here is a picture of that. That's a wow. Look at the way the water hits the rocks and then cascades down. I'm going to make that bigger. That's El Nicho Waterfall. It is right outside the Unique Topes de Collantes National Park in Cuba's Cienfuegos province. They say this is some of the most outstanding waterfalls, canyons, and caves, all amongst this lush countryside of the Escambray mountain range. A lot of walking trails here. These cascading falls also offer the opportunity for a refreshing dip in a swimming hole, fringed by swaying palm and banana tree foliage. Yes, please. This next one, almost, it looks like, I mean, this one does too, looks like something out of a movie, but check this out. I mean, yeah, yes, that's amazing. It's actually one of the highest waterfalls in Cuba at about 546 meters above sea level in the Mensura National Park. Gorgeous. This is near the municipality of Mayari, Cuba, made up of two waterfalls you can see there, with 85 and 127 meters of vertical fall, which join at the top. They say it's an adventurous hike. There are a couple ecological footpaths with lush vegetation and the chance to spot some of Cuba's unique wildlife, and then this crystal clear pool down below. Super pretty. Again, that's called the Salto del Guayabo. I don't think I said that at the beginning. Salto del Guayabo. Third on the list, is Salto del Soroa. So this one is Salto del Guayabo. This one, next one is Salto del Soroa. And there it is. They say you want to pack your raincoat for this one because it's in the mountainous region of Soroa, and it's one of the rainiest spots in Cuba. It has a nickname, the Rainbow of Cuba. The strength of this waterfall depends on how much rain it has received. Comes down over a protruding rock you can see there up above, and then you can take a dip in the pool that lies down below. They say it might not be deep enough for swimming, but it's good enough to wade toward the falls and soak up the scenery. They also say it's a great spot to have a picnic. So, beautiful. And that, again, is Salto del Soroa. There are a few others, but those are the top three. Here's this one. I mean, just so beautiful, right? And then there's the first one. It's just gorgeous. I mean, wow. So thanks to lovecuba.com for a look at some of the most beautiful waterfalls in the country. And that, my friends, is Waterfall Wednesday. Little look at Cuba's waterfalls. That's fun, because we'll probably never get to see them in person. So, might as well check them out here on the internet. I have a story about the earliest human writing. And keep finding new examples The earliest known writing dates back over 40,000 years. These Stone Age artifacts that you're looking at were found in Germany, and they cleverly say they're editing the timeline of writing. There's new evidence that was published in the Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences that indicates that we as humans experimented with symbolic writing as many as 40,000 years ago. They're still investigating this, but if it's deemed to be true, they say it dramatically recontextualizes the history of communication, given the earliest known written languages are Mesopotamian, dating back to about 3000 BCE. But the artifacts here date back tens of thousands of years before the first writing systems, to the time when Homo sapiens left Africa, settled in Europe, and encountered Neanderthals. Study co-author and archaeologist at Berlin's Museum of Prehistory and Early History, Iwa Dutkowitz, and colleagues spent years looking at 260 relics from the Stone Age taken from cave sites in remote mountain ranges of southwestern Germany. They looked at the small mammoth figurine they had carved from an extinct animal's tusk, the adorant, which is a famous ivory carving that looks like it has a human lion figure with outstretched arms. And they say these and other similar artifacts feature frequently repeating sequences of lines, crosses, dots, and notches. They entered more than 3,000 geometric carvings into a Stone Age sign database, and then they examined them using various computational analysis tools. And they said they didn't expect to translate any of the messages, but they used the analysis to compare and contrast their attributes and writing systems that developed later. They say using methods like quantitative linguistics and statistical modeling allowed them to compare the symbols found on these Paleolithic artifacts to early language and modern writing forms as well. And by using both approaches, they could estimate how much information could be contained within the carved symbols. They said writing is only one specific form in a long series of sign systems, that we continue to develop new systems for encoding information. It's also the basis of computer systems, right? That the ability of humans to encode information in signs and symbols was developed over thousands of years. So it all plays a role in how we communicate with each other today. They said one of the things that surprised them the most is that they had theorized that the samples, early samples, would share more similarities to present day writing systems. But they said it seems like the Mesopotamian communication method looks more like its Stone Age ancestors. So that writing changed very little for tens of thousands of years. And they don't think it represents any spoken languages either. The signs the archaeological objects are frequently representing have these repeated cross, cross, line, line, line. Cross, 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 line, line, line. They said that type of repetition is not a feature found in spoken language. So now that they've figured this out, they're going to start narrowing the scope of possible interpretations and look at cognitive abilities, what Stone Age humans had already achieved compared to their present day descendants. They say they've only scratched the surface looking at these sign sequences found on artifacts. That it started happening a lot earlier than they thought. So that's pretty cool. All right. Do I have any more stories? I have some more stories. Speaking of Neanderthals, how about this one? This story is about the different ideas about what may have led to the extinction of the Neanderthal species. And there's a thought that Neanderthal pregnancies might have been more complicated than our pregnancies that we have. Up to 4% of first-time Neanderthal moms may have died from eclampsia. I don't know how we know these things, but apparently we do. The theory is that preeclampsia and eclampsia have blighted Neanderthal pregnancies and posed threats to both the mothers and the babies and that species as a whole. Eclampsia is when you have improper implantation of a placenta. It's characterized by a lack of blood flow to the developing fetus. It causes fetal growth restriction. For the mother, it can trigger a dangerous increase in blood pressure, maybe even seizures, depending. Today in humans, it's thought to be affect about 2 to 8% or 2 to 8% of human pregnancies, with full-blown eclampsia happening in about 1%. And advances in medicine have mitigated the risks associated with complications, but it still causes about 70,000 maternal deaths per year. So, interestingly, they say of all the 4,300 mammal species currently in existence, ours is the only one to experience preeclampsia or eclampsia. And the prevalence of it in the Neanderthal moms could have been what led to the species' downfall, or at least one of the things. So, all right, I hate to end on a Debbie Downer note, but did you do your 5 extra minutes of movement today? Who's playing along with me on this? Anybody? I don't know. I'm doing it. Try to stand up in between the shows, try to get a little extra 5 minutes to prolong the life. So that's a little reminder to go out and move if you can. The chat is weird today. For some reason, it looks like a lot of messages may be restricted, and I'm not exactly sure what's happening with YouTube today. Or maybe it's a StreamYard thing. I don't know. But again, I do want to thank the folks that help fund this show. So important and so appreciated. You guys are amazing. West throwing in some. Joyce M, another one from Wes, Vicky S, Alicia P. Huge thank you. And again, thank you for your patience as I took a couple days off. So I'm so glad to be back at it. Love the heart, Ricky O'Bear. Thank you. Yeah, I don't know why. Either the chat's really slow today or I'm just not seeing any messages, which is so bizarre. All right, tomorrow on the Mark Thompson Show, we have former federal prosecutor David Katz. It's going to be a really good show. We may have also a conversation recorded by Mark. Has got a couple that are really interesting that we're talking about playing tomorrow. So you can look forward to that as well. And of course, the Nikki Maduro Show at 5 p.m. Thursday night. That's tomorrow night, 5 p.m. Pacific, with cocktails, mocktails, and politics. I see you, Tammy. Hello to you. All right, everybody. Go out there and make it a great rest of your Monday, and I will meet you right back here on YouTube tomorrow until we meet again.
The After Party Live would like to thank the following contributors and viewers like you.